So, welcome if you're watching on YouTube. Another behind the scenes training for you. I must basically turn into the most charitable man. What was the. The guy who was behind, like, what's it called? SVX or something? Or FX? Yeah, and he was known as the most charitable billionaires. Something crazy like that. But anyways, if you're watching on YouTube, if you enjoy this type of content, drop a like, subscribe, let me know what you want me to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about something very important, something a bit more advanced. So if you're a beginner, I would recommend doing a bit more meditation first, so that you're able to be in a state where you're naturally relaxed. But for you guys, the reason we're doing it is because you're ready for this. So today I'm going to talk about 4 different types of energy, and the way I want you guys to look at this is think of this as ingredients for a recipe. So as you're going through your day-to-day life, you can mix in these energies, you can figure out what's missing right now, how can I add that into my life. And you can do this in a macro scale where you focus on one type of energy for a few months, but you could also do it in a daily scale. Maybe you're at a point where you're very loving, but maybe you don't have as much of a warrior energy. So you want to play with these 4 energies and experiment with different states of being and how those things look like for you. So the 4 energies are very simple. There's warrior energy, there's loving kindness, metta, second energy. Third energy is equanimity, groundedness. And then the last one is more of a cheeky, romantic energy. Now, something we talked about before is you never see reality for what it actually is. So with these energies, you can actually change the way reality looks by getting into a certain energy. So if you want to be more loving, you just look at the world with more loving eyes. If you want to be more warrior-like, you look at the world with warrior eyes. How would a loving warrior walk and see the world? Maybe you'll own your space more. Maybe you'll take a bit more space. If you want to be in a more romantic state, you look at the romance in the world. You watch couples interacting. Not the couples we saw at the sushi place, but couples who are affectionate towards each other. So you can do this in the way you change your lens to the world. Another thing that can help is using anchor smells, which you've probably seen me do before. So you can have 4 different types of anchors, one smell for each state. For example, this is what I use for warrior, which is why when I go to jiu-jitsu, I smell this every now and then. And it really aligns you to that energy, so that over time you can keep mixing these, and then if you need to snap into a state quickly, you can use this to snap back in. But the key is you want to spend more time training the smell and not using the smell as a crutch. So most people use these smells so that they get into a state. We're doing the reverse. We're training the state first, and we're anchoring the states by smelling, which is one of the most strongest senses you could have when it comes to snapping you back into a certain state. So that when you smell this, it will amplify the state. So then if you are in a state where you need to be more warrior-like, maybe you had 5 hours of sleep, but you have some crazy fights with someone in your network, you have a court case, whatever, right? If you need to be in an energy of more certainty, you can use the smell to snap you back into that state. So if you're going on a date with a girl and you feel very burnt out, long work day, you want to get into a more romantic state, you use that smell. So these are more, think of this, when you train it, it amplifies the state. But if you use it when you're not in the state, think of this as an emergency button. Don't use it if you don't have to. But if you feel like, okay, this time this is necessary, then you just smell it. So that's the overall outline of the 4 energies. Now I'm going to go into each energy, and we're going to talk about how you can train it long term, how you can build it up long term in your life. And first, we're going to talk about the warrior energy. This is very simple. You know, do a martial arts, jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai. That's why I wanted you to also sign up for jiu-jitsu, because I felt like this is an energy you could really build and work on, which has been helping you. As you see, you've turned into a machine. I lost my huevos as a result of that. So you could do martial arts. Second part is lifting heavy weights, big lifts like squat, deadlift, bench, with good form. Anyone watching this, I'm not a fitness coach. You figure out what's best for you. But if you're a guy who's sitting on his couch, you're not going to become warrior-like by watching 300 Spartans 100 times. So the key is moving your body and putting yourself in a safe way into those survival situations, so that you can build this warrior-like energy. And then when you walk down the street, you know, there's this sense of respect that people look at you by. You're not just an easy target. But this is, again, not something you need to prove and go out of your way to look extra aggressive. Because we're working with energies, over time, whatever energy you carry blends into the energy of being, so that naturally you'll walk a lot more confidently. You'll carry your space more. The last part of this is energy opening stretches, which is, I've done it with you, I've done it with him. It's really stretching to opening up your body and then letting the energy move around your body. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, there's a guy named Ido Portal, as well as there's another guy called Strength Side, and they have a ton of stretches. But the key is when you stretch, you feel the energetic body, and then if you face a distraction, you do the 6 R's again. So you don't do it in a way where it's just to manipulate the body. You really feel into the energy. And the way you stretch is, if there's energy stuck somewhere, you feel something stuck, you focus there a bit more. Especially the one we did where you just like go whoosh, and you really take out the energy. That's gonna help get yourself into that warrior state. And when you're opening up those energies, as well as stretching your body, which you're actually doing at the same time, you'll walk differently, you'll be a lot more fluid, you'll be able to go deeper in your squats, you'll be able to go deeper in other parts of life, and you'll be able to really move through the world as if you're just floating. A lot of people move very stiffly because tons of people do work on laptops, they sit all day. So you want to be the person who can move through the world effortlessly. And that's why stretching is a big part of this. You know, always take the time to stretch before workout, because it's not just helping you for the workout, it's helping open up your energy for the rest of the day, as well as keeping your body in shape energetically and letting things loose. Because maybe your mind is very relaxed when you're out with a girl, but if your body is very tense, she's not going to know the difference. So also letting your body get looser and looser is going to help you be more expressive and really flow through in life. Any questions about warrior energy?
The stretching routine, would you share that with us, or is there somewhere we can find it?
Yeah, it's something I've done with PR. We can record a video if you want. But yeah, YouTube channels, Ida Portal, Strength Side, they have like, yeah, we'll spell it in the description. But they have like tons of videos, more than I could ever record. So if you want to go deeper into that, that's where you look. But whatever I did with you guys is a good place to start. And as an overall principle, you want to make it playful so that you're laughing. That's why sometimes I roll around or do things that probably will come up in gym fails in a few months from now. But you really want to make it playful so that it opens up your energy and you move your body in ways that you're not used to moving. So you can roll around, go side to side, move your shoulders, move your spine, especially if you're deadlifting or squatting. Spine's very important, as well as if you want to enjoy your time with women in your bedroom, hip mobility is also very important. So those are the two areas that you can really focus on.
Is there a separate section in the lecture that will talk about anchoring these two smells?
Yeah, so in terms of smells, you pick which smell you want for which one.
But when do you smell?
Yeah. So I smell this when I'm in jiu-jitsu class. Now, if you're more sensitive to like loss and win and winner effects, then you want to smell it when you're on an emotional high. Maybe if you got completely spanked by some dude in the last round, don't smell it. But to me, that doesn't affect me. So you can smell it in emotional highs, like you hit a PR or you hit a heavy deadlift or you take someone down in jiu-jitsu. So you anchor the state with the memory, with the experience.
I think we need to algorithmize this more, meaning to initially build the association, are you saying when we find our lift weights, then smell,
Right.
and that's going to build the association,
Right.
and then in the rest of our life, when we want to invoke that warrior state, that's when we can smell it. And if the association is strong enough, our warrior state will be amplified.
Yeah. Exactly. But usually, after you do it for enough time, you will have a feeling of what state you're mainly in. So you could be sitting at a coffee shop in a warrior state, and if you recognize that, then you can smell it still. Like, you're gonna know that intuitively. That's not something I can give instructions onto people. But when you first start, you can smell it, lift weights, smell. I can't believe we're going so step by step. I think this is causing tension and tightness in my mind. So you get the experience first, and then you smell the anchor when you are building the anchor. You don't smell it first and then get the experience. Now, if you want to use it as an emergency button, and you have to have a date with your dream girl, but you're on 4 hours of sleep, you feel like a zombie, you smell the smell after having trained it for a long time. Because if you haven't trained it for a month or a few weeks at least, it might also set the anchor back. So that's why you want to train it 100 times and use it like one time, which is why it's an emergency button. Make sense? Cool. So, second state, love and metta. This is in the meditation, something we focus on a lot. Over time, the metta will just come up in your chest. Also, for guys watching on YouTube, we have a very simple metta meditation on the channel. But, the simplest way to really get into the state is to send loving wishes to yourself. This is not the official meditation, because that you first start with a memory. This is only if you want to get into a metta state. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, until that feeling comes up in your chest. So that's one way to get into that metta state. The second way is smiling more and shifting your attention to the wholesome in the world. That's why I get so distracted when I see a happy dog. Because I'm like, oh, a dog that's happy, amazing. Also, the more you siksar, the more you recognize there's a distraction, release your attention, relax your mind, re-smile, return to the object of meditation, and repeat this process, the more you'll naturally be in a state of metta. Like that will be your natural state. And depending on where you are in the official meditation, your natural state will change. So at first it'll be a lot more metta, loving kindness, but then later it'll be more compassion, then it'll be more joy, then it'll just be more equanimity. So things connect in that way. But if you want to put yourself in a loving state, that's how you do it. Really shift your attention. And then last part is using generosity. So being generous in the way you treat yourself, speaking to yourself gently, speaking to your mind gently, not beating yourself up, understanding that whenever you're harsh on yourself, that's just a hindrance. It's harsh speech towards yourself if you're beating yourself up, which is not something you want to be doing. So moving through life with generosity, with a smile on your face, smiling at other people, being kind with people you interact with, these will all put you in states of metta. And to train this state, when you're feeling that metta sensation in your heart, then you can still smell the anchor. Or when you are with a friend and you just feel randomly, sometimes you just randomly feel very happy, you can use the anchor to train that state. Sometimes you just have a good day with a friend, like that day we had where we just walked around to Sancho and everything was very pleasant and everything was shut down. There's a lot of soft happiness and joy, so you could use the anchor there. Or if you have a conversation with a girl and it's very wholesome and cool and she has very pleasant energy, you can also use it as an anchor there. So whenever you feel the loving kindness arise, you can anchor that smell to that state. Any questions?
How do we build the self-awareness to differentiate between an adrenaline-filled euphoria, which we get from, let's say, accomplishing a deadline, versus this loving kindness kind of happiness?
Yeah, the more you meditate, the more you'll see the craving attached. Loving kindness doesn't have as much craving attached to the feeling. A dopamine hit is just craving. A dopamine hit is about I'm amazing and everyone has to know. Loving kindness about the world is amazing. Let's enjoy. And scientifically, loving kindness is a lot more about serotonin. It's not a dopamine hit. So usually if an activity creates a dopamine hit, it's not really loving kindness. It's a lot more pleasant, it's a lot more soft, and it's a lot more grounded. And at the beginning, you just trust your intuition. Which is why, again, if you're watching this, meditate for a few months for 30 minutes a day. And then do this stuff. If you try to do this directly, thinking, oh, it's so cool, I want to work with energies, you're not going to do it the right way, and you're just going to be confused. This is also why I tell people to do their meditation in the mentorship, but if they don't do it, it's not my problem. Because this is just the beginning of very cool things you can learn. But unless people are ready for it, I won't talk about it. It will be pointless to talk about it. So that's the difference. Loving kindness is very pleasant, and it's not taking away from other people. You're not trying to make yourself bigger. You're appreciating what is already there. Does that make sense? Cool. So let's move on to equanimity. This is the one thing that you cannot hack. This will only come, or not only come. The way I have found it to arise is by sitting for long periods of time. You're not going to just tell yourself one thing and be in a very equanimous state. Because to be very grounded, you have to truly understand the three characteristics of what can happen. Like the three characteristics, which is everything is impermanent, everything is unsatisfactory, and everything is impersonal. And the more time you spend in meditation, the more those truths will actually sink in to who you are. So then when you move through the world, you just go, it's all impersonal anyways. Not as a defense mechanism, not as a way to convince yourself, but that's what you truly believe, and that's what you truly see. Like a girl can end things with you and you go, it's all impersonal, and then you move on. That's it. So the only way these truths will turn from words that you've read in a cool like Buddhist article or the Daily Stoic from Ryan Holiday, the only way this will sink in is if you see it for yourself. And the only way to see this is sitting in meditation and having that intense craving where you're like, I just want to have sex right now. And then you sit through that craving and realize a few minutes later, it's no longer there. I guess this is impermanent. And it happens again and again. And then you realize, wait, there is no difference between me sitting in meditation versus me charging around meeting all these girls, because it's all unsatisfactory. I've been with women that I wanted to be in, and sure, it was cool, but it doesn't change who I am. But me saying this is not going to help you realize it at the extent that I realize it. Just like I'm not going to realize it as the extent a Buddhist monk will realize it. Just by talking about it. You'll realize it by sitting through meditation. That's why it's good to increase your meditation time, but also that's why meditation is never a waste of time. Because if you do it, you'll see the world completely differently. So then you do this meditation, you have something happen in your life. The average person might have been depressed for a week, for 2 weeks. The average person might have been angry for a few hours. But because you've put in this work, for you, it takes an hour to calm down. For you, it takes 5 minutes to calm down. For you, it takes 1 minute to calm down. So the work you're putting in to build that equanimity is like putting hours in the gym. You're building that strength, you're building that groundedness. And there is no hack to equanimity. But it's also one of the most attractive things to women you meet. If you can come into the world, to your interaction, with the idea that I care how things go, but I don't mind either way. I don't mind if the girl just walks away. I don't mind if she doesn't respond to my message. I don't mind if this date doesn't go anywhere. I don't mind if I knock over my smell anchor. I care to have a conversation with her because she got my attention, but I don't mind either way. And that's the state you come into. And you will know when you start kind of exploring those states, and that's when you can start anchoring it. It's not going to be through a hack or a sentence. So it's long meditations, increased by 5 minutes as you get further and further. Start with 30 minutes, do the twin meditation. We've covered this before, you guys already know. And then, especially at the beginning, investigate the impermanent nature of things. And then as you go deeper, you'll see the unsatisfactoriness, and then last, you'll see the impersonal nature. So, in your life, whenever you find yourself reacting to something, or whenever you are just going through life, take the time to investigate how these 3 characteristics show up with everything you experience. That's something you can do outside of meditation. So there's that. Any questions about equanimity?
I finally learned the right pronunciation of that word.
Cool. So last state is what I used to call more of this like kind of sexual state, but then I realized that creates a lot of craving. So I changed the name to a romantic, playful state. Now, a few things that I've found works really well for this. First of all, you can take salsa and bachata classes. Very good. To start feeling into the music, to start dancing, getting more comfortable touching, leading. But leading in a way that's gentle and effortless. So I'd recommend everyone watching this to really try that out, especially if you have a problem with getting stuck in the friend zone. You know, usually the guys who are friend zone more, they don't have as strong of a romantic warrior energy. They haven't built that up to the extent where women go, this is a guy I would want to have something with. And maybe they're very loving, but the warrior energy is not there as much as it can be. The romantic energy is not there as much as it can be. Another thing you can do is reading women's romance novels. No, not 50 Shades of Grey. That is just like an extreme example. But reading true, like, ask your female friends what they read out of curiosity, and truly read romance novels and see from their perspective how things look, how they see the world. If something is a bestseller, there's a reason. And after that, after reading this, like reading 15-20 pages a day, you'll see the romance in the air. When you're in a coffee shop and you see a girl, when you're on the street you see a girl. So there is nothing to do because you see it. The way you start talking to them is unconsciously different, and unconsciously she feels it's different. So something you can do there. Another thing you can practice, this is something I kind of discovered recently. You can listen, or I'll tell you what I do. I listen to salsa and I meditate. And as I'm listening to the salsa, I meditate to the feminine energy, to the woman in the world, and I just send them love and this protective energy. And you'll see that will make you a bit more playful, creative, fun, and very comfortable with joking around with women, playing around with them, really dancing with that feminine energy, because this romantic energy is a dance. It's not just like, oh, I escalate by this. This is a dance. And to learn how to dance, you expose yourself to the music. The more you expose yourself to the music, the more you'll get out of this whole experience. So this is key. You need to be able okay, I'll talk to you about that. You need to be a sensor has arrived. You need to be able to first listen to the music before you can dance with the music. That's the problem. Romance is already there. Most guys don't see romance. Romance is already in the air right now, between all of us. But people don't see it. That's why you don't have to try in conversations. You don't have to try on a date, because the romance is already there. So you just have to open up your awareness to the thing that's already there, just like you open up your awareness to different sounds. You know, like the thing about how certain animals can hear different sounds and humans cannot. Romance is already there. As a logical guy, you just don't see it. But if you are a more like those people, the painters who paint something that looks crazy to people, but to them it makes sense. It's like that. You need to tune into the frequency of romance. And that's how you play with the energy. There is nothing to do. So that is the fourth energy. Any questions before we move on?
Am I correct in understanding that we're each going to have, call it, our own recipe with different proportions that's authentic to us?
Right.
And that's going to be like what makes us us in whatever perception we're looking at it through.
Exactly. That was my next point. Experiments with the combination of these energies and different ratios of these energies. How you might interact might look similar to how I interact, but not be exactly the same. So naturally, to me, it's really easy for me to see the romance and be playful and joke around and be a bit cheeky even, in a way where someone who takes themselves a bit more seriously might not do. But I also like the romance of playing around with a girl and making things a bit more emotional, not dramatic, but making things a bit like a story. That's why, you know, when I meet a girl who's very logical and analytical and like very to the point, even if she's attractive, to me it doesn't do much anymore. It's like the romance is already not there. So you have these four energies. I'm not here to give you the recipe. You figure out the recipe for yourself, which is the fun part. So you could go, oh, how would I be if I had like 80% warrior energy? And you just kick the pole over there and hurt your foot for a bit. You know, how would my being change if I added more of this? And when you add more of this, whatever energy that is, try that for at least a few weeks. See how people respond. And then you might see, okay, I actually like being this way more. And sometimes you might see, I actually prefer the way I was before. So again, it's not about giving you, this is what you need to do. It's about giving you the ingredients so that using those things, you can create the person you want to be. So the next thing that we kind of touched on is what you perceive and the lens through which you perceive what you perceive creates your reality, which then feeds into what you perceive. So when you're playing with these energies, like you do this meditation with the salsa music before a date, you'll come in with more romance. Like it will immediately shift your reality. You'll see different things. A girl might not even be smiling, but you see her smiling. It will really change the way your reality shapes itself, and then you can create loops through these that just feeds that reality. So if that's what you're working on, do that before your dates. If warrior energy is more you're working on, do some energy releases before your dates. It's all about what you want to work on and what you want to focus on. But understand, apart from the equanimity, the other 3 states you can shift quite quickly. Not to the extent you would get, just like the shift won't be as deep as it would be if you played with these energies all the time, but you can still have quick shifts that feel very meaningful to you and the person you're around. Make sense? Cool.
So, going along the lens analogy, is it the case that each ingredient combination is creating a lens with a different power, which, a different prescription lens, which consequently creates your reality, which then creates a feedback loop into the, external reality is slightly inaccurate, but it creates a feedback loop, which then reinforces, or the prescription lens then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. Exactly. Which is why you want to experiment and find out what's authentic for you, so that you create a self-fulfilling prophecy that you enjoy living through. But at first, as you play with them, don't be scared to play with them excessively. Don't be scared to just live a day and you're super romantic and that's how you see the world through. Maybe you look at a tree and you're like, wow, the tree is so beautiful, and your friends think you're crazy and you did too many shrooms, but then actually you haven't done any. And by that we're talking about vegetables. So you can really play with these. And then as you master these for yourself, you can send these energies onto people. Like you can be on a date and in your mind truly send her love, and you'll feel her open up a lot more. But the key is non-attachment to the result. So don't be like, I want to have some action with this girl, therefore I'm gonna send some romantic energy. If you try to pull off stuff like that, you're gonna get spanked by some bad karma. And trust me when I say spanked, like you might get sick for a few days. You don't play with these energies in an unethical way. They really do have consequences. So the key when you're sending energies is how can you do that in a way that benefits the other person, not just for your selfish gain. So that's very important.
So would optimism, self-belief fall under metta and generosity towards yourself?
Yeah. So last part is different instruments you can use to train these states. We talked about smell, so that's one. Have anchors for different states. Second one is music. So you can make a warrior playlist with drums like Viking drums, Protectors of the Earth, pretty good one. There is, when you do warrior music though, make sure it's wholesome warrior music. Not like 69 just talking about rampaging in the hood. As much as I enjoy Eminem, he won't be on my warrior playlist. So that's also the difference between doing it from a place of meta versus dopamine hit. Like if you listen to heavy rap, sure, it puts you into this swag state, but it's very dopamine based. It's not real. But you listen to more like instrumental warrior music from the Marvel movies or Viking drums, and you still feel into that warrior energy, but it's not in a way where it's like it's high, it's low vibrational energy, similar like as how rap would be. Most rap, at least, not all rap. So you can make playlists for different energies and play with that. Usually for the romantic one, I just listen to salsa. For warrior, you can do the Viking drums. For meta, there's a guy named Sam Garrett who has like these hippie-ish songs about nature. He's pretty good. For equanimity, the song is no song because you don't care or you don't mind either way. So the song for equanimity is silence. So playlist, last part, and this is where things connect. If you want to have something close to an instant fix, understanding that they're not going to be as effective as putting in the real work, that's when mantras come into play, just like they were in the program, or well, they are still in the program. But that's the basic level you start from. So you can have mantras for different energies, like you're safe with me. It's very warrior mantra where you're protective in a loving way. You could say, like you could look at a girl and just in your mind say, may you be happy. That will give you a slight shift in meta, like this very slight bump. Or you could say, I belong here, which will give you a slight shift of equanimity. And then you could say, you know, like the playfulness, romantic energy. You could be like, oh, she wants a piece of the boys, you know? Not necessarily very romantic, but when you think about flirting, it's basically playfulness with romantic intent. So understand that you turning yourself into a more playful person is you still working on romance, as long as your equanimity is also on point. The reason people become a clown, like the guy who has all the jokes but none of the action, is because they joke around for validation and they don't have their equanimity on point. I mean, you guys know I laugh at everything and I joke about everything, and clearly it hasn't affected my results. If anything, it's made everything more effortless. So there isn't anything wrong with being playful, but understand that you combine it with equanimity. So that's it for this lecture. Any questions? No questions? Cool. You guys on Facebook and YouTube, hope you enjoyed that as well. Again, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, comment below, do some magic, and most importantly, if you have not meditated on long periods, 30 minutes a day for at least a few months, do not try this. Meditate first, and then use this as a dopamine hit. Or if you've meditated enough, you can finally start feeling into and playing with these energies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.